Hello, everybody. Once again, I have Lila Sage with me today to talk about the upcoming US election. Recently, we talked about Kamala Harris and how the stars kind of aligned to bring her where she is today. And today, we were going to also talk about Donald Trump and how his chart lines up with everything. And I'm really interested to hear about their zodiacal releasings in the context of Election Day and beyond, maybe Inauguration Day. Okay, take it away.
Yeah. All right. Let me share my screen and we will look at what's going on for Donald J. Trump. All right. This is his chart. Oh, there you go. You can see it now. Good. Um and we can see his Gemini sun and of course his rising. So, let's take a look at his zodiacal releasing. Let me make sure this one is not his. That is Joe Biden's. And here we go. Okay, perfect. Now, this is very fascinating because Trump is about to go into a level 1 peak period. So, yeah, very interesting. You would have thought that he was in a peak period before, but no, he was not
Correct.
in a peak period.
He was in a preparation period.
He's in a build period. Yes, he's been building, building, building.
That is like kind of shocking to me.
Yes, insanely
Wow.
shocking. So
Everything is
he
building up,
to
but he's still
this.
in it. He's still in a building up period right now and will be during the election up
Mhm.
until 3 months into the next person's presidency.
Yep, he will. And in April, he will start his giant peak. Now, you can read that both ways, but look when his peak period starts on a level 2. November 21st is when his peak period starts on a level 2.
Wow.
Very interesting. What I didn't look at what day, exact day, election day will be. I don't know if you know on the top of your
Yeah, it's
head,
the 5th
Allie.
of November. I'm pretty sure that's true because I was like, are you serious? It's like everything else is so freaky with this. And now it's remember the 5th of
The
November.
November,
Contract,
yeah.
powder, treason, and plot. I'm like, are you serious?
Yes, it is
I think it's the
very
5th of
interesting.
November.
But he will be during the
Wow.
election in level 3, he will be in a peak period. And then of course, what's his peak period?
Oh my gosh,
November
on
5th.
election day.
On election day, he will be in his peak period on election day. Busy day for him. I would be very surprised if it was not. So, lots of big stuff happening that day.
Right. Whether he
Um,
wins or loses, that's going to be a make it or break it day for him
yes,
as
no
a
matter
human
what.
being, right?
No
Like as the
matter what.
guy that goes, like he goes to his hotel room that night to fall asleep, like no matter what has happened, like he's gonna sleep that night. Yeah, right. But
Yeah,
like,
right.
um, it's gonna be a big day either way, is what we
Yes,
can take away from
yes.
that.
And for him, he will like looking at his peaks because I'm pretty sure Leo is his yeah, it's a bigger peak for him. So right now, he's had one peak before back in 1973 and if you look, it was a minor peak for him actually. So it was a lesser peak for Trump. He's about to go into a moderate or bigger peak for him. So whatever happens in April of 2025 that opens that door, it will be a big peak for him. And let me go back to where we are right now. But yes, if we look at election time, the other thing that's happening for him during election time is a culmination period. So, culmination periods are the time where we can get on top of the mountain and see everything that's been happening. So, for him, this is going to be this time that everything's coalesced and he can finally realize, like, oh, this is why everything happened the way that it did. This is what's going to happen. It's going to be, even though it's not a peak, it's literally going to be a culmination in his life for him, a big, huge step for him, which I would expect, right, to be a big step. But I will be very interested to see what this culmination brings, how much it brings for him, especially because we're looking at, a double peak during the election for him.
Wow. And so
Yeah.
that culmination, I mean, like it could really go in kind of any direction. I mean, obviously his life right now has been preoccupied with politics. And
Yes.
so whether that's the culmination of him like wrapping up his time in politics by losing
Right.
or wrapping up
Right.
his um I don't know, like drive to run again or whatever. Like, but something is wrapping up for him.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
that will end on the 21st of November, like 2 weeks after
Yeah.
the election.
Election.
He
Yeah.
starts
Because I
something new.
Yeah, he's seeing it. Well, on the 21st of November, he peaks, right? Whatever he's been building in this Aries period and during this build period is gonna peak. So whatever he's been working on, which obviously has been the election, right? Like this
Yeah.
started in August of 2023. Obviously, this is his whole election campaign, right? He has been
Yeah.
running. He is in the culmination of like everything is coalescing for him, right? And I did want to look at what I was just curious. I don't know this. I didn't pre-look it up, but
Yeah.
what day that he was shot? What was the
Yeah.
day that that happened?
Oh,
I'm
God, I
sorry
can't remember.
if you
Let's see
can
if
look it
Google
up.
will tell me. I know that what day
I think
Trump shot.
I have it in my calendar that it when it happened. Um
I think July 13th. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
that's right.
right. That was my son's birthday. That's right. It was birthday and Donald Trump. Yeah, that was the day.
Yeah. Yeah, so he was in a peak during that time. No surprise, right?
Right. Oh my
It's
gosh.
peak for
A
him.
multiple
A
peak.
multiple peak, both Scorpio peaks, right? And Scorpio is often, you don't usually read Zodiacal releasing like this, but Scorpio is associated with violence sometimes. Um,
Yeah.
original ruler is Mars, and so Scorpio with Mars can be associated with violence. So he was in a double um oh yeah, a double peak. Is that June? Oh my gosh, it's June. No, he isn't a peak. He's a single peak here. Sorry, July 13th, you said. So right before he got a culmination right after that. So he entered into that big peak frenzy right after. But he was in a level 3 peak during this time and he had a double culmination
Wow.
going on. Yeah. Sorry,
That's
I just
crazy.
saw the
So
alert.
just another verification that just because it's a peak doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah,
And everybody's concept of what is good and what is good for them is going to be really different.
very different.
But
Yes.
it's just saying that there's going to be a very significant focus
On you at this time,
on him.
it's going to
Yeah,
be
just whatever.
busier. It's just usually they're busier, they're bigger, things are just happening a lot. And that's sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. It's not always the best. And if we look at let's look at his birth chart really quick cuz this will give us more of like what's going on for him and his peak periods cuz so for him his peaks are aligned with the fixed sign, so Scorpio and um, he's got Venus in Cancer. Oh, of course. His peaks are more intense for him because he's got Mars and Leo. So that means that all his peak periods are going to be a little more intense, a little more challenging for him.
Ooh,
And
and he has Pluto in Leo as well. So I was
mhm.
thinking like we're heading into his peak,
Yeah.
A Leo peak in
Yeah.
2025. And to me, I was like, oh man, well, Leo is all about you, but like having that Pluto there, him having his life be all about him, and like he obviously draws so much attention and is so polarizing, and it's got to have those Pluto vibes for him every single day, where it's like love it and hate it. It feels like a death, but
Mhm.
also a rebirth, like
Mhm.
huge transformative energy happening all the time, a very powerful energy.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think his lead ups are always going to be cardinal, and I think for him his build periods are usually easier for him, more helpful because he's got Jupiter and it's going to be affecting all those build periods to be a little helpful for him. So right now he's in an Aries build, which is going to be the second best for him. So he's going to have, so it's kind of like no matter what hits him, he's going to have a positive build, right? And we kind of have seen that I mean there's lots of negative media and all of those kinds of things, but he kind of is a tour de force right now. He's always used negative media for his benefit, and he'll continue to do that, and
That's a really
as
good
he's building.
point about the media, and
Mm,
like that Pluto in Leo, where like he is a master of taking negative and yeah, like spinning it how he wants it to be spun. And like a lot of people, don't, they see him trying to spin it and don't feel like he did a good job. And some people see him spinning it and feel like he does a great job. So
yeah,
very
yeah,
polarizing.
yeah. My fear, um, looking at this and looking at his zodiacal releasing, and um I I do think this is kind of a hair width race. Like he's about to go into a peak. He's about to, be in a more important, bigger time of his life. I think you could say that could happen either way. If he lost, he could make a big stink about it. There could be a big stuff, or if he won. And so I'm not necessarily making any predictions that he will win or that he will lose. I'm saying like between him and Kamala, basically they both have a chance. It's really neck and neck and what's going on for them. But my fear, and maybe my fear is not necessarily like based in reality per se, but I think because there was violence at the rally and everything, my worry with that Mars is that there could be another assassination attempt during this time, during this peak. I hope that's not the case, or during this peak. I really hope that's not the case. I hope it's not him being well known because of the violence against him. But I'm just saying that to be honest about my fears. But I also think, he both of them have very good chances of winning because he's about to go into a peak. She's in her peak period. So it's really hard to, split hairs and say what will happen, basically.
Yeah. Well, now I'm like so intrigued to go back in time and like look at like I think it would be really interesting to look at Reagan versus Walter Mondale and
Yes,
that
yes.
election and see how that looks in their contexts that they were born
Mhm.
into. If
Mhm.
I may borrow a word from Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
um
Well, this also, if you want to look at someone who's very fascinating, is Bush and Al Gore
Ooh,
perfectly. Yep. During the election, Al Gore was in a peak period, but before the election happened, he finished his peak period. So he got bumped out of his peak period. And who went into their peak period? Well, Bush went right into his peak period when this happened. So who won the election? Bush won the election. So very interesting.
wow. Yeah, now I
Yeah.
gotta go look at all the elections with all our free time. Yeah, that's
Rest all our free time.
we have tons of free time. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, great.
Okay, well, thank you so much. This has been
Hmm.
so fun to talk about all of this stuff. Everybody, this is Lila Sage. She does do personal readings and she does astrocartography and looks at maps and like where you have lived and where you want to live in the context of your natal chart. And she will be so happy to help you with zodiacal releasing. Right?
And
Say,
yeah, and I'm about to come out with a course on zodiacal releasing. So if you want to learn more about this timing technique, there is so much more than what we've covered here. So much more. But if you're interested in it, then give me a holler.
ah, yes. Hooray. Well, I will put that link below. As a reminder, we're still in our 30-day challenge of taking out the trash where we're emptying our subconscious minds by writing in our notebooks. So be sure to do that today. I'm going to put the link below. But man, thank you, Lila, for being here. This was so enlightening and so interesting. Okay,
You're welcome anytime.
we'll see you guys later. Bye.